Oh heck yeah, we're starting this video out with a dramatic quote. How pretentious. Before I go any further though, I want to take this opportunity to give a long overdue shout out to my good friend Jude. He's the incredible artist responsible for this awesome Ratchet & Clank piece, which he gave me for my birthday last year. And over the last couple of weeks while New Zealand has been in a brief lockdown, it was my birthday. And he gifted me this awesome TARDIS painting for my birthday. I believe those in the art industry refer to this as watercolours. For real though, this is so awesome, and I guess this is like officially marking my reintroduction into being a fan of Doctor Who after 4 or 5 years. I'm going to link his art pages in the description of this video, and if I can figure out how to get it to overlay on screen, I will. Otherwise, just please check it out down below. He does do the odd commission, especially when drawing dragons. Like, his art work is so good. I can't even draw stick figures, and here he is just making these amazing pieces of art with just pencils, and I don't know how he does it. Even if you're not interested in a commission, it would still mean a lot to me if you'd check out his art pages. Without further ado, let's get on with the review. Here we go, story number 7, The Sensorites. I've actually had this DVD for a while and haven't watched it until now, although I've always been curious about the aliens featured on the cover. Like, how can such a simple creature design translate to the screen? Well, we shall see. Right from the get-go, the very first scene addresses something that I've mentioned several times over previous reviews. There's a nice moment with all the characters reminiscing over their past adventures together, going so far as to specifically mention each of the first season stories. There's even a cheeky jab at the edge of destruction at the end of the last episode, but we'll cover that when we get to it. Although, while acknowledging the last 6 stories is nice, they still don't make any reference to the whole kidnapping situation. In episode 3, they mention how the Doctor's been trying to get them home the whole time. But like, did I miss something? I'm starting to think I've been viewing Ian and Barbara's relationship to the Doctor wrong this whole time, or more likely I've just been overthinking it. From what I can gather, the Doctor hasn't been specifically trying to bring them home, more just stumbling into various adventures, essentially kidnapping the duo. And as far as I can recall, the only time he ever mentioned bringing them home was at the very end of An Unearthly Child and the cliffhanger that led into the Daleks. Clearly I should stop focusing so much on this aspect because for one reason or another, it's clear that this isn't something you're supposed to pay that much attention to. So, Ian and Barbara are just fine with travelling with the Doctor and Susan, and the Doctor's been trying to get them home this whole time. Now with that cleared up, The Sensorites follows the same structure as all the previous episodes, with the crew arriving somewhere new, getting separated from the TARDIS, and then having to work to gain access to it again. I feel they do enough different here, with the Doctor being less hesitant to offer help, but that still doesn't stop this from having the weakest setup so far. Without any major story spoilers, they arrive in the control room of another spacecraft, with the TARDIS parked in the corner and some new characters over by the control panels. Somehow, creatures are seen trying and failing to open the TARDIS, using a device to burn the lock out of the TARDIS door, then walk out of frame with the stolen lock, all without anybody else in the room noticing. Then the episode goes so far as to have the characters think, what's that strange burning smell? Seriously? Again, it's probably something we're not supposed to think too deep into, but the reason I bring it up is because when the Sensorites officially reveal themselves, there's this big build-up complete with a sound effect that's supposed to warn the heroes of the aliens' arrival, with one eventually popping up outside the window in hilarious fashion. So are we to believe that they snuck aboard the ship, stole the TARDIS lock, quietly snuck out again, and then came back with a loud sound effect for an official reveal? Or were they on the ship the whole time? Well, no, because that wouldn't make any sense. I'm starting to ramble now, aren't I? Okay, I didn't mean to focus so much on continuity and the sloppy introduction, but like most Season 1 stories so far, I really enjoyed sitting through this one for the first time. I honestly think if you took out the needless, painfully slow walking around the ship in the first 2 episodes, and then don't bother introducing any new characters at the very end of episode 6, this could have been a really solid 4-parter. As is though, it's quite an endearing story. It uses plenty of familiar formulas used by previous serials, such as having a mystery to unravel and that one backstabbing traitor, but like I said, I think it does enough different to make it feel fresh. For one thing, the stakes are a lot less personal this time, so instead we see the Doctor more willing, almost excited, to help out the Sensorites. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about the Sensorites themselves. Well, I love this creature design. So simple, yet so effective. The costumes are basically just grey jumpsuits, with the masks doing most of the work. It's basically an enlarged cranium with eye holes and a mouth hole, but the addition of frazzled hair and raspy voices give them a sense of age and wisdom. The story explanation of them having black hollow eyes was a really ingenious idea, and the mouths do somewhat move when they talk, obscured by the facial hair. Really clever design. You know, I can't explain it, but I kind of just want to give one a hug. The abilities that the Sensorites possess are by far the most interesting part of their character, but I want to save that reveal for anyone who chooses to watch this story for themselves. Although I do have to ask, what are those? Hardly a threat as well, despite their abilities, being incredibly susceptible to sounds, completely blind in the dark, and being defeated simply by aggressively thinking so aggressively that Susan faints. A few notes, as always. Some of the new characters have this little device about the size of a matchbox that acts as a super advanced defibrillator. This tiny little thing can literally restart a dead heart and is brought up so casually for one brief scene. I love just random bits of futuristic sci-fi technology. My best friend / oldest foe in this first season returns. Yes, the overly loud, annoying sound effect. Although, instead of being the usual background annoying distraction, this time it is front and center. In the first 2 episodes, this literal high-pitched whining is used to indicate the Sensorites using their abilities, and it is just so loud whether you're listening to it through headphones or just TV volume. And yet for the rest of the episodes, the sound is much quieter and far less abrasive. Still worth mentioning though, in case any prospective viewers have hearing issues. Barbara is out of the picture this time for a couple of episodes. A story explanation is given, but I was wondering why it didn't end up amounting to anything. I gave it a quick Google and sure enough, her actress Jackie was on holiday. It's so strange to me that actors could just take a holiday in the middle of filming a TV show and they would just write it into the script like it was nothing. I guess it makes sense for like a never-ending soap opera like Coronation Street, but for a sci-fi show with like a budget and film schedules, it's just so bizarre. We get our first mention of Gallifrey from Susan, although at this point it's not named as such yet, but I still found that a cool bit of lore. Oh, and my absolute favourite trope in classic sci-fi finally makes its debut in Doctor Who here. The first time I saw something like this, I'm pretty sure was around 2011 when I was watching a random classic Cybermen story. It might have been Earthshock or Attack of the Cybermen. Anyway, I know it's common in classic Star Trek, but my favourite deaths in all of old school sci-fi are the one chop kill. When someone ever so slowly and gently chops another character once and they immediately die. Now to be fair, the keys of Moranis did feature the first iconic chop in Doctor Who, but it did not result in death, only unconsciousness. And yes, I've had that in my notes for the past few reviews, just excitedly waiting to bring it up. This brings us to the conclusion of the story, and aside from the slightly too long length and the weak opener, I really liked everything else about these episodes. The deduction, the mystery, the new characters, the Sensorites, both in design and behaviour. The only thing I absolutely detested was the Doctor's attitude in the final moments. In the cliffhanger for the next episode, Ian misspeaks ever so slightly, and the Doctor just loses it. He goes way too far. I don't know if he took it to heart or just took it personally, but he just launches into this massive rant about how sick he is of Ian and Barbara criticising him and how he's going to take them home right this instant. Like, he really took offence to this simple offhand comment that surely wasn't meant to cause any trouble. This almost ruins that nice scene I mentioned from the start, and undoes a lot of the character development for the Doctor. He's seen to care about both Ian and Barbara's safety, and we're finally starting to see some compassion from him. And then he goes and acts like this. It was so unexpected that I even started watching the next episode of The Reign of Terror straight away to see if he was serious, and yeah, he was. I can't say this is definitively a negative, but I personally hated it. Now, for all I know, this could just be the setup for the next story, or maybe even a way for the Doctor to be humbled. Because what Ian said wasn't exactly wrong. I mean, we all remember the Edge of Destruction, as much as I wish I could forget it. I'm really hoping that was the case, because I was actually starting to like the first Doctor, but after that tantrum, I don't know. Bear in mind, this is my first time watching all these classic episodes, so please take my thoughts and opinions and feelings as a newcomer into context. I have no idea what's to come, but I'm excited to share the journey with you. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm especially grateful when a video runs longer than planned and people still watch it anyway. And remember, I would really appreciate if you took the time to check out Jude's art pages. That would mean a lot to me and it would mean a lot to him. Next time, we're going to be taking a look at the finale to Season 1, The Reign of Terror.